All right, let's talk about bees. I mean, we see them buzzing around, we know they make honey, but what if I told you they're way more complex than just some honey-making bugs? They are, without a doubt, one of the most sophisticated and vital organisms on Earth. And it turns out, if you want to understand our world, you've got to understand them first. So to get started, let's just throw a number out there that might blow your mind. When you picture a bee, what pops into your head? Probably the classic honeybee, right? Well, that's just one out of more than 20,000 different species found all over the globe. Yeah, 20,000. So you see, we're not just talking about a single insect here. We're about to dive into a whole universe of tiny creatures. And honestly, they're some of our most important allies for survival. Which brings us to our first big question. What makes them so critical? Why are these tiny creatures so essential for, well, everything? I love this quote because it just nails it. Think about it. Millions of years of evolution have fine-tuned bees into these perfect little machines, optimized for one of the most crucial jobs on Earth, pollination. Okay, so let's get introduced to the family. Bee is a super broad term, and it covers all sorts of different lifestyles and skills. We're going to break down the 4 key players you really need to know. Okay, check this out, because the diversity here is just wild. Of course, you've got the famous honeybee. They live in these massive colonies, basically a super organism, which makes them absolute powerhouses for large-scale pollination. But then you have bumblebees. They have this cool little trick called buzz pollination. They literally vibrate flowers to shake the pollen out, something honeybees can't do. That's why they're essential for things like tomatoes. And here's the real shocker. About 70% of all bees are solitary bees. They don't do the whole hive thing, but they're amazing specialist pollinators for fruits like apples and cherries. And finally, down in the tropics, you've got stingless bees, another social type who are experts at pollinating all those unique tropical plants. All right, let's zoom in. We've seen the family, now let's look at a single worker bee. And when I say look, I mean really look, because its body is basically a high-tech toolkit, perfectly designed for its job. We're going to focus on 3 main pieces of kit. You've got the wings, and they do more than just fly. The pollen baskets, think of them as tiny cargo holds. And the proboscis, which is basically their fuel extractor. 200. That's how many times a bee can beat its wings per second. It's just insane. That speed is what lets them hover so perfectly over a flower. But it gets cooler. Back at the hive, they use those same wings as tiny fans to create a full-on climate control system, heating or cooling the hive whenever it's needed. And this is where their efficiency just shines. That proboscis, it's a super specialized straw for drinking nectar. That's their high-energy fuel. And the pollen they cram into those baskets on their legs, that's the protein shake, the building blocks for raising all the baby bees. Okay, so we've got the worker and her tools, and now let's pull back and see how she fits into the big picture. We're going inside the hive, which isn't just a home, it's a superorganism, one of the most efficient systems you'll find anywhere in nature. And right at the very heart of this superorganism is the queen. She's not a ruler, she's the reproductive engine. Her one single job is to lay eggs. That's it. And she can only do it because she's fed this exclusive superfood diet of royal jelly her entire life. And when I say her job is to lay eggs, the scale is just mind-boggling. Get this. At her peak, a queen can lay up to 2,000 eggs in a single day. That's more than her own body weight, every single day. So where do all those eggs go? Well, they become the lifeblood of the colony, the workers. These are all sterile females, and they do literally everything else. They start as nurses for the young, then become builders, then guards, and finally, they graduate to being foragers, the ones bringing home the nectar and pollen. And then you have the drones, the male bees. Their life is pretty different. They don't work, they can't sting, they just hang out. Why? Because they have one and only one purpose: to mate with a new queen. Once that job's done and winter is coming, they're actually kicked out of the hive to save food. A pretty tough gig, right? So you've got the queen, the workers, the drones, all with these super specific jobs. But how do they all work together? How do they coordinate? Well, that brings us to what might be the most amazing part of all of this, their secret language. I mean, really think about that. How do you get
tens of thousands of little insects to act like a single intelligent being. How does that even work?
The answer is they have two languages. One is a language of movement. It's like a living, breathing GPS system. The other is a language of chemistry. Think of it as an invisible chemical internet that sends messages to everyone at once. Okay, the waggle dance. This is one of the most incredible things in the entire animal kingdom. A forager bee comes back to the pitch-black hive and performs this little figure-8 dance. The angle of that dance tells the other bees exactly which direction to fly relative to the sun, and how long she waggles in the middle tells them precisely how far away the food is. It's a perfect little map communicated through dance. And while that's happening, the whole hive is communicating through that chemical internet of pheromones. The queen releases her own special scent that basically says, "I'm here, I'm healthy, keep working." It maintains the whole social order. If there's a threat, other bees release an alarm pheromone, a chemical scream for help that triggers the hive's defense. They even have a welcome home pheromone to mark the hive entrance so everyone can find their way back. It's an entire world of communication happening through smell. So, after all that, why does this matter to you and me? Why should we care about their anatomy and their secret dances? Well, here's the bottom line. It's because of all this complex biology that bees are able to pollinate about a third of the food we eat. 1/3. And on top of that, they're responsible for nearly 90% of all flowering plants on the entire planet. So here's the big takeaway. All of it, the body parts, the social roles, the secret languages, it all adds up to create this incredible collective intelligence. And that intelligence isn't just about the colony's survival. It's a system that actively supports the health of our entire planet. And that's what I want to leave you with. When you think about tens of thousands of individuals working together seamlessly as one for the good of the whole group, it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What can the collective intelligence of these tiny allies teach us?